Thank you, everyone, for being here today for the first presentation of the Age and Dementia Friendly Action Plan. This is the work of many. I am so thankful for their commitment. First, to Joanne Zagmont from OCPC, who guided us through this process, and to Kevin Mullins, the chair of the Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force, and to the Welcoming Committee, who created the survey that was distributed to the entire community, and the Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force, who created the plan you see today. And for each of you for taking time to review the plan, give us your feedback to ensure that the document is what is presented to the select board is representative of the whole community and addresses the needs, concerns, and the vision for the future. This action plan covers 4 topics: housing, transportation, communication, and community and health services. We look forward to hearing from each of you in regards to the action steps that we've developed in each topic area and putting your input and feedback on what we've put together. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Everybody, I'm Brooke McDonough from the Duxbury Senior Center, and I'm also on the Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about how this plan was developed. In 2022, the town of Duxbury joined the AARP network of age-friendly communities and signed the Dementia Friendly Pledge. From there, a town-wide survey was distributed to Duxbury residents to get input on what residents need for a livable Duxbury. We had close to 1,400 responses, which we thought was tremendous. From the survey, 3 key domains were identified as the focus of the plan: housing, transportation, and communication and information. Mental health was also a strong concern. The town then appointed an age and dementia-friendly task force to develop an action plan for livable Duxbury in these areas. That was in June of 2023. The task force worked with Old Colony Planning Council and met with state experts in all of these areas. We also conducted focus groups comprised of Duxbury residents and key representatives and informants in each of these domains. With that information, we have worked to create an actionable plan that was specific and to create goals that will make the town livable for all. This is a draft of that plan. We're hoping that Duxbury residents look at the plan and provide us with feedback. The plan is up for public review until May 24th. We will present the final action plan to the select board in July. Once it's approved by the select board, the COA board and members of the task force will work on each domain and begin implementing the action steps. The Age and Dementia Friendly Task Force will continue to work on other domains indicated in the survey, including finishing the work on community support and health services, and as well as outdoor spaces and buildings. I'll now turn it over to Kevin Mullins, who is the chair of our task force and who will go over the Livable Duxbury Action Plan for you. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Brooke. Before I get into the specific recommendations, I wanted to provide some context. These recommendations are summaries of the action plans that are in the reco, the 90-page document. 3 other things I wanted to emphasize. Number 1, there's some great work that's been done, previously done in the town. Example, Envision Duxbury 2019, Hall's Corner Study of 2018. And it provides some great opportunity for us because not many of those recommendations were taken over the years. So we're going to use those as the foundation of our recommendations. Number 2, this report and these recommendations may be unlike a number of other committee reports because about 2/3 of the action plans and the recommendations we're actually committing to do the work. Number 3, we're not just going to present this plan and just go away. We've set up an organizational structure that will follow up with the items in the action plan and will help the execution and the measurement of the overall plan. Now, let me talk a little bit about the process of going through these recommendations. I'm going to go through each of the 4 recommendations individually. I'll present those to you, and then we'd love to open it up for your comment. Then I'll go to the second recommendation and do the same thing. Feel free at any time to come back to any of the previous recommendations. And then at the end of all 4, we'll open it up for comments on all of the recommendations. That is either an extra apartment built onto your home or another building on your property. A number of towns have done that in thoughtful, temperate ways to get this done. Harvard, Mass, Hingham has had one since 2022. So there's ways to do this and still keep the character of the town. Explore the feasibility of using town-owned land to increase the diversity of housing stock. There's some town-owned land that I think we should be looking at to do housing. Work with the CPA, CPC to support more housing projects. Continue to expand programs such as property tax work-off. You know, how do we assist various people of all ages in the issues of, you know, the property taxes? How do we do it in a fiscally sound way and a way that's right for people? And then also, we have a newly revitalized Duxbury Affordable Housing Trust, and how do we support them and their housing production plan? You know, their plans and their efforts are more than just housing just for affordable housing. It's all housing, and it's housing for, we identified 6 key groups we wanted to focus on housing. I'll see if I can remember them. First, seniors who wanted to downsize. Second, first-time home buyers. Third, veterans, town and municipal employees. And there's 2 more. I can't remember them. But you kind of got the idea. It's broader than just seniors, but one was as handicapped individuals and others were as affordable housing, so 5 and 6. So those are our recommendations on housing, the broad-based recommendations. We have specific action plans on that. We'd love to hear any of your comments on housing. I guess, what do you like? What do we miss? What's not clear? You know, and all that. And you also do have comment time until May 24th. We're leaving open until comment period. So Joanne's email is the email you should be sending all your comments to. So I'll turn it over. If anybody would like to comment on this, please go to the mic. The only other thing is I am not a trained facilitator. Joanne Zygmunt is, so if any of us give us a hard time, I'll just turn it over to Joanne Z. Okay, so I'll open the floor up to comments on housing. Yes, please. Could you go to that mic? There.
Last time you had a meeting, I had a problem with where I live in Duxbury housing, and I do have to say it remedied itself just by my expressing it, because I live in 59 Chestnut, and the location is $1 million location. I could walk anywhere there. There's like restaurants, state stores, everything. I volunteer at the thrift shop. But at the housing, it's a lot to be desired. I think it's neglectful. It's just, for that location, it should be maintained better. And anyway, my problem was the stove and the mouse infestation and all that stuff. And you guys helped it. You did it. You remedied it. I mean, they sent out, the Board of Health sent out registered letters to our housing committee, and they had to sign for it. And in a timely manner, I got everything I wanted. So I just wanted to thank you for that.
You're welcome. I think a lot of the credit goes to the new leader of that group, to Bree Liang, you know, who's now the chair of that committee.
Who was it?
Of the Housing Authority Committee is Bree, and I think she did a lot of follow-up from the Housing Summit on that, but I think she gets some of the credit for that.
We send notices, but they ignore them.
That's great.
But I kept it up. I got the Department of Health.
Nice. Thank you. Holly?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions about the report, and one of them has to do with, maybe OCPC can answer this, but when you look at the demographics, the age bar, charts and so forth, why do you choose the age 60 versus 65? Because I wish I was still 60, believe me.
So in this case, Duxbury's Senior Center considers their sort of age group of service to be 60 plus. Joanne, chime in if I'm incorrect. Yeah.
From guidelines from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, an older adult begins at age 60.
Wow.
And also to add to that, because we wanted to include data that's reliable, for the demographic information in the report. The census sometimes breaks things up at 60, sometimes at 65. So it kind of gets a little messy in that case too. So we've tried to be consistent and kind of stick to 60, but there are a couple places in the report where you might notice, I think it does say 65 plus on some of the charts for that reason.
Yeah. The other question I have has to do with, is this report strictly targeting seniors versus younger adults who may be mentally or physically handicapped?
So the AARP concept of age-friendly means that a community is friendly throughout the aging process. So things that benefit you when you're 70 are also likely to benefit you when you're younger. So one of the examples often used is sidewalks and accessible crosswalks with blinking lights. I forget what the technical terms for those things are. Transportation is not my area of expertise. If you have those things in place, then you might be 70 with a walker, or walking with your daughter who might have a child in a carriage, and it's going to benefit both of you equally.
But how about housing?
Housing.
And could it possibly be mixed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So there's nothing to say that if you talk about an age-friendly community, it doesn't mean that you're looking to just develop specific developments for those who are of a certain age group, like 65 plus or whatever the cutoff might be. It's not retirement villages. But if you build in a way that is age-friendly, then really the way that you're building the home is considering things like, all right, can we build this home with a first floor bedroom so that the family that moves in when they're 40 can actually stay there until they're 80, because there's that ability for them to do so. So a lot of the issues cross over. Some of them are more specific, particularly on kind of the health side of things, because as you age, often there are other health issues that come along with that. But generally, if it benefits older age groups, it's going to benefit younger, and vice versa as well. So that's why it's a all ages kind of thing.
Yeah, Holly, if I had remembered the 6 things better, it's first-time home buyers, it's town and municipal employees. Downsizing seniors are just really 1 or 2 of the 6. So if you think of those 6, 2 of the 6 are directly affecting seniors, and the others are all ages.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
Steve Farrell. I just want to comment on the groups. Seniors who want to downsize. I think there are a few seniors around, and I'm one of them, who are not interested in downsizing. We'd like to stay here. I've been here for 47 years, raised a family, like a lot of you here. Went through all of the taxes and the school building and all the rest of it, and we'd like to remain in town. So you have a group, I think, I read somewhere, and I only read this morning, a legislative advocacy group. You might want to think about some way, as a way to make that happen, a financial incentive for seniors who want to remain. And it's got to come in the taxes, right? Some kind of program. I have a property in New Hampshire, by way of example. The town, I don't know if it's a state, but the town is a program. You reach age 65. You've had to have lived in town for the last 3 or 5 years. And income-based, right? Income-based, there's a formula, and you get a reduction in that tax, which may allow you to stay as in the place you were, raise your children. And that's that comment. The other comment I would make is in this housing that continues to take place, and I think it kind of smacks at 40B a little bit and the rules therein. But back to that legislative advocacy group. In 47 years, I've noticed the rural character of the town decline, and in some ways dramatically. I know we have design review boards. There are a couple of recent ones that have popped up where acres and acres have been clear-cut and so on. So I would like to make the recommendation that the design review board and the advocacy group somehow get into this 40B business to really think harder about maintaining the rural character of the town. Thank you.
Okay. Steve, on point number 1, we definitely need those type of examples from your New Hampshire, because we do have that in our list to look at. Okay. And we'll add point number 2, the design review board issues on 40B. one option is, we have enough housing and we are not then forced into the 40B situation. Okay, anybody else? Going once? All right, should we move on from housing? Oh, are you getting up to talk, David? Okay. All right. We'll move on from housing for now, but if you think of anything, it's okay to bring it up as we move along. I am there already. Thank you. How did I do that? All right, transportation. Summarize some of our recommendations. We want to provide resources to caregivers to help them navigate different options in transportation. That happens through the senior center. The town is a member of the Complete Streets and Safe Routes to Schools. And how do we maximize funding opportunities on that? One of the things we really identified throughout this and has been really reinforced by Joanne from OCPC and from the Mass Planning Council, there are a lot of grants out there. And they may be just for the taking and the time and the grant writing. So we are really encouraging volunteers to get involved with grant writing and also for the town to really be focused on and getting the grants through that because of the expense of Complete Streets and some other things are pretty staggering. We're focusing on safe, accessible travel for all ages, emphasis on walking and bicycling. And I think people have brought up in meetings, say, bicycling is a lot more. There's scooters now. There's guys on, people on, the what's called skateboards that are going by. And so it's all of those type of vehicle types that we should focus on. Really improve walking safety and connectivity in town. I mean, we all know the places that we should have better walking across Hall's Corner. It's kind of an unsafe area to go from one to another. Here's an interesting one. Support efforts to expand the senior center's local and medical transportation program. There's a really good program now, but there are other options that we've found out there, like something called GoGo Grandparent. It basically is a software package that links into Lyft and Uber drivers. Now, there's money there, so that might be a barrier, but we've thought about doing a GoGo Grandparent volunteer program. Now, there's legal issues with that, right? And there's process issues, but there's nothing that we think we can't overcome with doing that. So those are types of directional parts. We don't provide transportation currently to the Weymouth medical areas. We're trying to expand our transportation support to that area, not just to Plymouth and to Pembroke. The next one is to develop a grant writing program, both volunteer and then also we think there should be some town people that should be doing that. But we really believe there's money out there that we have to go after. Envision Duxbury's transportation goals. Again, I'd go back to that 2019 plan that took 2 or 3 years to develop, had a lot of community input, and it's really well done. If you read through the transportation pieces in there, much of it mirrors what we're recommending. Explore the expansion of GATRA services. We all see the GATRA buses going by. They're not always full. And are there more efficient ways to use those routes? We talked to them yesterday, in fact. How can we have smaller buses and more routes and more extensive routes? And they're working on that. So those are things that we're providing feedback to them, but it does take time. They are going to buy smaller buses, but they've got to transition their fleet from big to small. So that's kind of the general areas of transportation. I think there's like 22 action plans in transportation in the RECO. So I wanted to lay those out to you for comment. Chris Naton?
I have just a question, because I bet a lot of us will think this. As we look at recommendations, and Kev, to all of you, this is so phenomenal to have at our fingertips. And as we dig through it and we see a suggestion to implement Envision Duxbury transportation goals, as Joan and John Q. Public, what role do we play in doing that in the appropriate way, because, you know, we have talked for years about a big project of installing sidewalks that are accessible and make the town more inviting for us. Maybe it's just I'm too dumb to know what role I should be playing in a process like that. So I read it and say, that's a great idea. And then I just wait and not sure how I should plug in.
Yeah. I'll take one cut at that, and I'd appreciate others to chime in. To me, that's one of our core roles. We've got to be able to communicate to our constituency and others exactly what we'd ask you to do to support these. And I think that's one of the next steps in this process. We're just trying to now, so May is confirm with people and listen to people on what things should be done. And we don't necessarily going to stop at the end of May. We'd like comment all along. And then we will go to planning board, we'll go to the zoning board, and then we'll go to the select board and communicate this. And I think after those, we'd like to judge what the responses are. Because to be honest with you, some of the things that we're recommending, we've seen recently are in process in the town. And I think there's a new wave of energy in the town. But I think after that, so after the July 8th meeting, I think our responsibility is to answer your question, to say, okay, now here's what we would ask of you to do. It's one of the power of this group, right? The 5,060 plus people, we need to figure out how do we leverage that, you know. Often at town meeting, there's 125 people making the decision and voting, you know, and so anyway, I think that's my answer. I'm sorry, I'm too long-winded sometimes, but others could say, you know, to answer Chris. This is an interesting one. Communication. It's a pretty complex and deep one. There's some simple solutions, and there's some that take a long time, right? So I think some of the more clear ones are like this first one. We are going to strongly encourage the town to develop a dynamic website that is customer service friendly, that people want to use regularly, that go to all the time. But the town has to make that as a strategic choice. You know, you have to want to do that, and you have to keep it up. So, you know, it's going to be their choice, right? Another key one that we're trying to talk about, how do we do this, but develop effective ways to share information within the community, including and improving townwide communications. We've used as a couple of examples. Plymouth has started this Plymouth Independent, which is a independent news organization that is communicating regularly to the town on town things. Nantucket has a offshoot of one of their monthly magazines called the Nantucket Current, that on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they have an email version of what's going on in town, and it's tremendous. So as examples, hard to do, of how can we do that to really energize communication and information to people in the town. So here's one that probably everybody would shake their heads and nod yes. Advocate for improved broadband and cellular service in town to help ensure residents remain connected and can actually talk to one another on the phone. And we've heard a number of reasons why that is, and we're kind of confused as to why, so we're going to be following up on that. It does seem like there's some workable solutions. You know, we've got to be able to talk on a cell phone in the area around the schools. Separate from that is, hey, people need to be trained on how to use the internet and things, and especially seniors, right? I need it as much as I can, you know, and so it's to continue to develop and expand digital inclusion programs. You know, a lot of people don't want to say, hey, I don't know how to use Facebook, or I don't know how to do this, so we need to expand and reach out for that. And then this is almost one of the answers to Chris's question. We request that the town of Duxbury leverage the Senior Center and Task Force's communication network to get the 5,000 of us to kind of communicate the types of actions we would like the town to take. Okay, so that's the summary of communication recommendations. We do have a communication expert here, Brooke, that can handle any others that I may have missed. Not to put you on the spot, but
We have a lot of great, we already have Duxbury, and in all of these different domains, Duxbury has done a really good job so far. And in communications, there is also that. There's a lot of pieces of communication out there. What we want to do, there's the e-alerts, there's the newsletter from the senior center. The library does a great job with the schools are amazing. We want to kind of pull it all together so that it's more cohesive. There's another thing that we found also is, because you brought up sidewalks, and when we went into some of our meetings, we learned a lot about what other departments were doing that we didn't know. So it's that communications is also that cross-committee kind of reporting that I think would really benefit Duxbury. So does anybody have ideas or questions or things that they would like to see as far as communications and information goes? Come on up.
The very same town I told you about that's got that tax program, the citizens got together and they created a communications method by computer. It's called Eaton Ears. And I'm sitting here in Duxbury and I'm getting a notice that the planning board is meeting on an issue that I'm concerned about up there, so I have to hustle up, right? So the town somehow, town government, links into this system. Don't ask me how, it's out of my wheelhouse. And all of the residents, whether they like it or not, if they're a member of the Eaton Ears, they get the notice on their email. The only way I can find that out in Duxbury is if I take the time to drive over to Town Hall and look at the bulletin board, if I have the time, and I don't know what's happening. And then I'll get over there 2 weeks after the meeting it happened, and I'll find out that, boy, I should have been there. So there's this Eaton Ears thing. And also the Eaton Ears program is used to, people are posting services for yard cleanup, God knows what, on this. And then the folks are getting, I know there's a Duxbury Helping Duxbury, and it's not unlike that, but it's some sort of hybrid of the two could maybe work for the town.
That's excellent. Thank you. Those are definitely some of the ideas that we have tossed around and talked about, and we will work on in our communications domain for sure. Thank you for that.
This is maybe something that everybody's talked about, but have you ever thought of changing the name of the senior center to a community center? I think
It's
it would
such a
bring
good
in
question.
a lot of people.
It's such a good question. So
don't
we
feel
have
ready.
thought about it, and there was a lot of energy behind it for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a question on the survey. We did a survey before this whole process started. And the question was, should we change the name of the senior center? And we got a pretty serious amount of response that we should not change it, that we should keep it as it is. So what we thought of, so we're going to do that for now. We're going to do what the people want. But what we thought we would do, and this will be part of the work that we do, is to rebrand the senior center so that we'll focus more on the word center versus senior. Another thing along with that is this age positivity language that we want to continue to use. Instead of saying senior, we try to say older adult, things like that. We're working towards the whole town taking on that kind of language, so it feels better. But you're right, we want to attract the people who are 60 who don't consider themselves seniors. We want to attract them here, and we want them to understand the services here, so, and that are available to them.
And I didn't know if it had anything to do with grants. Do you
No,
have
we
to have
we could
senior?
change the name if we wanted to.
Oh, okay.
But I think what we're going to try to do is change the logo and use center as the. We have some good ideas. Come on up.
Two things. One on that, I agree with Sydney, and I think you could just say Duxbury Community and Senior Center.
It's a great
I think
idea.
older adults is actually going backward. I'm not sure that language serves the purpose of what you're trying to do.
Good idea. Yeah, we definitely want to make it feel like it's for everyone.
Right, right. Number two, cell phone service, bane of my existence. I can't even make a cell phone call in my own home. We own, I believe, one of the highest points in town is the water tower on Standish Monument. Put a cell phone tower there. You'll cover 90% of the town.
Yeah, we talked
With one,
about that.
with one item. You can see the high school from
So
right?
that's
It's
something that we
in
would have to
town-owned.
advocate for and, bring a lot of people who want to do it together.
It brings in revenue too.
Yeah,
Right? So it's a silly thing not to do.
right. Right. That's a good point. Anybody else? I can get Kevin back up here if you want.
Great. A couple of comments on Steve's recommendation. We did discuss how do you do a Council on Aging Angie's List for seniors and we just have to figure out how do you do that appropriately. Basically, we would be endorsing one company over another and one service over another. And so there's appropriately questions and there's legal questions. So we do have that on the list and we just have to figure out how to do that and what would be the right vehicle to do that. To Harry's point, and this will be an issue that we're going to talk about the elephant in the room at times in housing and other things. We found out yesterday that there was a proposal to put a tower on Standish Monument, but the neighbors said no. So, it's a balance, of things. We're all going to have to be faced with that in this. So how do we work around that? And or with that. The only other thing I wanted to reinforce with everybody is we were talking yesterday about this meeting, and Joanne, who does a number of these, said in one town that she had just tried to attend a meeting, 0 people showed up. And so we wanted to thank you again for this. This is part of what makes us really good, I think. So just it's a great example of your interest and your commitment we try to do the best we can. And I think that's evident in a number of those other committees and surveys that were done. The sad thing about it, I didn't even know Envision Duxbury. That was my fault. I should have known that, but how do we help get that out? So, all right, I'll move on to the fourth. Health and community services. Now this is a broader, we have, and the word we've been using is domains. They're basically subsets or topics. This is a broader topic we will explore in more depth in our second phase next year. But what we really came out during the discussions was the real need for work on the whole mental health issue. So most of these recommendations deal with the mental health part of health and community services, and health and community services are much broader. They're behavioral health and a number of other things. I even learned what the difference was between the two healths. So just let me kind of summarize these for everybody. Remove the stigma around mental health and dementia to create a safe environment for all community members. We learned that in Plymouth County, there's a weekly meeting of Plymouth County first responders to identify crisis situations and try to deal with it. And we said, hey, if it's really working well in Plymouth County, maybe we should have one for Duxbury. So basically that's it. Replicate the Plymouth County model for Duxbury. And so that was, hey, we already have a crisis. We want to avert it getting any bigger. There's one down here, is to work with groups like Duxbury's Faith Communities and other relevant organizations to understand community needs and improve outreach. So the question on that one is, how do we do a better job at outreach? So so they don't get to the crisis stage, right? And we know there's a lot of good things. The Senior Center does good outreach. I mean, we have a person in the organization that leads it, but it's really one person. Duxbury Interfaith Council does a lot of community outreach. Some of the individual churches do community outreach. How can we get some of the resources together to see whether it's smart to combine? And so don't get to crisis, we get outreach. So we know a lot of people are not being communicated with that may need help. And how do we do that? I'll go down to this list here. Expand the Duxbury Senior Center's very successful social day program. We have an outstanding program here. It services maybe about 20 people at any given time. The waiting list is about 50% of that. So let's make up the numbers, right? That's 30 people right now that might need it. We think 50 people would use the social daycare program if we had it, and we think it probably needs to be built to 100. So lots of issues. How do you do that? You know, where do you get staffing? Where do you get the space to do that? But just listening to the caregivers and others about their experiences would make you say, you know, we don't need to wait anymore. We need to take action now. So, okay. Provide resources, training, and other educational opportunities for the residents, caregivers around mental well-being, around Alzheimer's, and other forms of dementia. Just to dimensionalize this a little bit, so we have 5,000 seniors in town. AARP says about 13% of those 60 and above have some sort of Alzheimer's and dementia issue. So if you take the 5,000 times 13%, a quick number is 675 people here about are in some stage of that. So there's some needs. Seek to increase funding for mental health and social services at the local level, and that's a funding drive that comes down to some of the other areas that we talked about, community outreach. Nancy?
Hi, my name is Nancy Melia, and when I learned there was going to be an age and dementia-friendly committee formed in town, I was really anxious to become a member, and I applied, and I feel really privileged to have served with some really smart people who taught me so much about the community. But I focused on the dementia issue because my husband has Alzheimer's, and I was interested in seeing what was going to happen for that particular core group of people. And I'm delighted to say that there's an expansion in consideration of the social day program, and I notice on the action items here that it says that the task force will continue to work toward the expansion of the Senior Center social day program. And the most important sentence here is the sentence that follows, which says, excuse me, the town will need to support expansion. So I just want to put that out to everybody. If we don't get together to support something like this, it may not happen. And the need is so great. There's a wait list. There's continuously a wait list. The wait list seems never to go away. And for reasons, my husband never qualified because he was on a wait list at one point in time. And I understand completely that we can't serve an enormous segment of the population, but we can serve more than what we're currently serving. And I think if we get behind that, you know, whether it's a parent that's suffering from dementia of some sort, or your husband or your wife, this program is unbelievably wonderful. And it's a model that can be duplicated in many different physical areas. So the senior center maybe doesn't have room for it, but that doesn't mean it can't happen in this town somewhere. And we can talk in more detail about that at some point in time. But I want to get the message out to seniors. Even if you're not directly impacted by this right now, when you start looking at data, you start looking at the percentage of people over the age of like even 75 or 80 who are afflicted with some form of dementia or Alzheimer's, it's a frightening number. And this is a wonderful program. I don't want to go into detail about it because it would take me a couple of minutes. But if you're interested in it, ask people who work at the senior center here how it functions. And it is so wonderful because it meets the specific needs of the patient and the caretaker. And there are many programs that don't do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Okay, that's a summary of health and community service / mental health. Just wanted to identify a few people that are here today that are on our domain teams, and they're going to be leaders in this, and the type of, I think you should put confidence in. First, Peter Holden. Peter Holden is our domain leader for the mental health, the health and community services. Peter has run hospitals for, I think, 50 or 60 years. He's pretty old. But, I mean, that's the type of leadership and experience I think that we really are trying to leverage, and Peter will be great at that. Kathy Dowling is here, and Kathy is going to be our team leader for housing. Kathy has a wealth of Duxbury experience, is a great manager and a communicator, and it'd be great to have her. In the back for communication, we have Sue Hoover and Dwight Shepard, and they'll be the team leaders in that area. Sue has a financial background. She's been CFO of a number of places, and she's a really good coordinator. Dwight has been in media all his life, in newspapers and radio and things. So I think we have some great people. The only person not here today is Penny Hurley, and she will lead our transportation effort. And the reason why she's not here is she's advocating for things. They had to vote in Nantucket last night for the short-term rental program, so because they have a house out there, so or else she'd be here. So those are the type of people that'll be our follow-ups to these 4 domains, and they are putting teams together to do this. And it'll be their charge is to help implement the action plan. They've agreed to do this through 24 to 2025, and it's kind of exciting that we'll have that type of follow-up. So in summary, that's the 4 domains. Those are our recommendations. We have another meeting, townwide meeting like this at the library next Tuesday at 6:30 for others to attend that couldn't come during the day. For the purposes of our document, we are keeping the open comment period open until May 24th. So if you could, any of your other thoughts, I would kid around that it is Joanne's email, but we wanted to have it in one place. So if you could email Joanne with any of your comments and recommendations, if you have them at any time, please do that. And I would also like to say we do have some time today. And we'd love to have any other comments. We went quickly over the 4. I would open the floor up for any other comments on any of these areas. We'd really love to know if there's anything we missed, major outages, anything not clear. How can we do better? How can we present this to the select board, the planning board, and the zoning board in a way that is more impactful, those type of things. So I'll sit down and. Okay, yep. I think it's 6:30 on Tuesday the 14th, right? 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Okay, I'll sit down. Anybody else like to comment? Please come up to the mic. Go ahead.
Maureen Herman. A quick question about the Envision Duxbury. I assume some funds were spent on that program. How come nothing or very little has come of that? And that's my concern about this, is that, as you mentioned, having over 5,000 people in the senior range, if, with all the good intent of this, if there isn't something really behind it, is this just going to fall apart?
It's a great question. So about, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago, I said to the task force, what I don't want to be is somebody in 2029 is going to be looking at our task force's report and say, this is really good. Why didn't you guys do anything? It's up to us. The collective us and that to get things done now. I do believe there's some great energy in the town and on the select board and to move things ahead in Envision Duxbury. It was formally adopted as a town program. So I can't tell you why more wasn't done. I do think I'll put on my one comment, we need a really good town planner. We have not had a town planner since August. And for many of these things, we're going to have a, a dynamic, politically savvy town planner. So, that's going to be part of our recommendation, but we'll see. I know people are working on it and things, but any help you can provide on that. So go ahead, Joanne. Yeah.
So this action plan here in front of everybody has, I think, around 50-ish actions. The Envision Duxbury master plan has hundreds. I haven't counted, but it's got at least a couple of hundred actions in there. If you go through them in detail, you'll actually find that some of the stuff has moved forward in the community. Maybe not completely accomplished, but at least moved forward a little bit. So one example of that, for example, is that the inclusionary zoning project is happening, looking at that in the community. I know there's Hall's Corner related efforts underway at the moment. The MBTA zoning stuff, although nobody predicted it would happen and it came down from the state, kind of touches a little bit on some of the things that are in Vision Duxbury as well. I think part of the challenge for the communications group that's forming around this is to help the community on the municipal side, the town side, just kind of communicate a little bit better and more coordinated about what actually is happening. Because often you read a report and then you realize, oh, well, actually, okay, yeah, a little bit of that is happening, but not everything. And just to somebody's point earlier, too, about how do I get involved, I think it's really important. So I'm a state employee. I work for you. Municipal employees, same thing. Municipal employees work for the people who live there. The people on your planning board, your select board, your town manager, they're all accountable to you. And if nobody's asking them questions or pointing some things out to them, then they genuinely probably don't know. We had an interview with a town staff person, pointed out a specific plan. That person didn't know about it, and then was like, oh, I need to go away and look at that. So sometimes that happens too, especially when there's turnover involved.
Thanks, Danielle.
Hello. I just wanted to say this is really wonderful work you're doing. I'm Danielle Klingeman, the superintendent for Duxbury Schools, and also Beth Wilcox, the assistant superintendent, is here. And I'm glad that we came this morning because of a couple of the things that were brought up. I think that the school department could certainly have conversations about whether you've run out of space with day programs, if there's any rooms that we could assist with. Communications, we have so many students and staff members that are skilled with internet, social media, graphic design. There's a lot of ways that we can partner. And it's not lost on us in the school department that many of you may not have children in the schools any longer. You might have grandchildren, but a lot of the tax funding does go to the school department. And so we always want to partner with the whole community. And so if there's any ways when you're doing this work moving forward that the school department can serve not only the youngest members of our community, but also the older adults in our community, we're definitely open to that. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I don't usually get an audience with this many people that don't have school-age children, so I didn't want to miss the opportunity to say hello.
Yep, Steve, come on up.
Where do we get copies of the Duxbury Envision Plan, 2019?
Yeah, it's on the Duxbury Town website.
It's on the website?
Yes. And I think the Hall's Corner plan is on there, too. And that's a really interesting one, too. Danielle, thank you for those comments, so we definitely will take you up on that.
Yes, I have a grandchildren in the high school. You can, or one left, you can use them. My name is Karen Bonner. On behalf of what seems to be a tsunami of gray-haired people in the town of Duxbury, I really, truly want to thank you for the hundreds of thousands of hours that you have spent on this task force. You're really unsung heroes. And that's all I want to do is thank you on behalf of the tsunami that I am now a member of.
Please.
name is Stu Hall, and I back up the comments that were made about the vastness of this program. I sit there and I go, what can I do? How can I get involved? We need to somehow distill this down so that it's in manageable bite-sized pieces that people who want to get involved can get involved, but they know about it. And it's not something that they come to a meeting like this and they see it on the wall and they go, geez, if I'd have known that, I could have done this. So somehow we've got to take the vastness, the comprehensiveness of this report and distill it down and communicate it to where people like myself who might be willing to do something very small to contribute to it. So I just think this is, I mean, the topics are terrific, but what can I do? And how can I be informed? So I think that coming to a meeting like this is great. We hear about it. So then I go back home and then what? So I just think somehow I'd be willing to put in some hours, but I wouldn't even know where to start. So I think we have to distill this down into gray folks' language and get it so that volunteers can volunteer.
Stu, thank you. Those are great comments, and you're already noted, I think we're going to have you on a committee. I don't know which one yet, but we're going to put you on. But your comments are great, and we tried to do that, some of it in the executive summary, where it's only 4 pages or so, but still, but directionally, what we need to keep in mind exactly your comments, and how do we get people to understand and to get involved. So thank you. Thanks very much for getting up there and saying that. Joanne?
So I feel like we're just at the beginning of the next step of work. The next thing we need to do is mobilize everyone to get involved. That's to join a committee, share information. When you're at a cocktail party, talk about this plan, get other people involved. If you have an expertise in one of the areas we've spoken about today, say that you'll help out. Every hand makes our job a little easier, and the goal is so all 5,000 older adults, but really 16,000 residents know about this plan and how it will make a difference in the community, because we really want Duxbury to be livable for people of all ages and all abilities. It's a wonderful community, and with this plan we can enhance it. So today's step one, Kevin talked about the leaders of the domains. We will be delving into health and community services. So if that's your area of expertise, let us know. Get involved. That's I guess my charge to you. Get involved, share the information. If you have questions, concerns, comments, email me, pop by my office. I'll have a running list. We'll be meeting on a regular basis. And our goal is for this report not just to be a report, but really an action, a change agent in town.
Thanks, Joanne. So I guess with that, if anybody has any more comments, we'll adjourn the meeting and say, like Joanne said, this is just the beginning. All good? Okay, thanks. Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. It was a great turnout. Thank you.